Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Norma Juarez. I am a proud alumna and staff member in UNC's Alumni Relations Office. Thank you all for joining us today for the Alumni Career Panel, Careers in STEM. Today, we will learn from and connect with fellow UNC Bears working in careers in science, technology, engineering, and math. Before I introduce you to our panelists, I would like to share a couple of housekeeping items with you. This event is being recorded and will be available on demand a week after the event of today's event on the alumni website. I will be posting the link in the chat. If you want to start building your network, please reach out to our panelists. I will post their contact information in the chat as well. And I will go off screen after introductions and will return towards the end of the event to provide a closing statement. As we highlight the careers of these alumni, I invite students, fellow staff, and faculty to ask questions through the Q&A feature. Now, please help me welcome our panelists. Panelists, please introduce yourself by stating your name, title, your organization, your UNC degree, and by telling us a little bit about yourself. And Veronica, we'll start with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Veronica Hazelwood. I graduated in 2016 with a bachelor's degree in physics, and I had minors in math and environmental studies. So right now I am an environmental engineer for the Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District here in Ohio.
Thank you, Veronica. Jeraz?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jeraz Madriza. I graduated in December 2018 with a major in geography with an emphasis in GIS and minors in biology and chemistry. I currently am a senior GIS analyst for an international real estate company. And yeah, I think that's all you wanted from us, right? Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Keitra?
Hello, everyone. My name is Keitra Nesbitt. I graduated UNC in 2011 with a Bachelor of Science in Applied Mathematics. I've had a lot of different careers. I was a teacher, and currently I'm a data scientist at an Austin-based AI firm called Valkyrie Intelligence.
Thank you. Anthony?
My name is Anthony Sakamano. I graduated in 2015. My degrees were physics and math. Currently, I'm in the Bay Area of California, so like San Francisco, working at Google as a software engineer.
Thank you. Tirsa?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeraz Madriza. I graduated in the spring of 2015 with my bachelor's in chemistry. I'm currently a chemist at a company called Waters in Golden, Colorado.
Thank you. And I will hand it over to Andrea James, who will be our moderator this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Norma. So thank you all for coming. I'm really excited to be able to moderate this session. So I am Andrea James. I'm a current assistant professor at UNC and have been here since 2016. So I'm kind of the continuing part after all of our alumni have continued forward. So I'm going to run with questions that I'll hand out to our panelists. And I just wanted to remind you, if you have follow-up questions as we're going, please feel free to put them in the Q&A session and we'll address as we go. And if we don't catch them, we'll try and catch them at the end. So I'm just going to kind of go ahead and jump in here with you guys. So knowing what you know now, what would you have done to better prepare yourself for your current careers as you were kind of getting ready to leave UNC? And I'm going to get started with Jeraz.
All right. Well, for me, I think, especially in the field that I'm working in, taking some more classes in terms of like data visualization would have been very, very helpful for me. GIS specifically is a very location-based, visually based field. But I think like having some more understanding about how to present that data in a manner that is meaningful, that gets the point across and is exciting would have done me quite a bit of benefit.
And Keitra, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, I will say for me, it would have been an internship. As I said in my introduction, I had a lot of different jobs, and it was mainly because I didn't have experience in data analyst or data science once I graduated. So I think an internship would really give you the real world experience that you need so you can more easily transition from school to work.
Thank you. Anthony, would you like to go at that question?
I would say internship's a really good point. And in addition to it, I would almost say applying early to jobs. When I first graduated, I thought if you apply, you'll hear back like a week later. But a lot of the companies I applied to didn't get back to me even till like 9-10 months later, even if it was an acceptance. So I'd say usually the earlier, the better.
Thank you. Tirza, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, I would like to second what Anthony said. I wish I would have started applying before I actually graduated. I think it would have, I ended up finding a job within 6 months and I'm still there. I've been at my job ever since I graduated, but it did take me 6 months to actually get into my career. So I wish I would have started early.
Thank you. Veronica?
Yeah, so for me, it would probably be that I wished I looked up job opportunities to see what's out there and to see what those additional qualifications are that maybe I wasn't exposed to like during my program. So for instance, using CAD and like civil 3D software was a skill that I definitely lacked because I didn't have that exposure. So just learning that on my own was helpful.
Thank you all so much. 2020 vision is always very different than as we're moving forward. So moving on to our next question. How have you successfully incorporated your UNC education into the launch into your career or just in your continued development within your career? And for this one, we'll kind of switch it up and we'll start with Keisha.
Great. So as an applied mathematics major, I took stats that I use at my job, data visualization courses, data analyst courses, linear regression, and computer programming. Now, when I was at UNC, I was learning C++. Currently, I code in Python, but knowing one computer program, it just helped me know and learn another computer program. So even if it wasn't the exact same one, it's kind of like your skill building, and it was still able to make me successful.
Anthony, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. I'm in a similar boat. For me, both the programming classes at UNC and the math classes were very helpful. One of the things I feel like at UNC, you kind of learn how to learn. And as you get into the workplace, it's amazing how much you have to learn. So I would just say taking those skills that you attained at UNC and applying them to your new role where you're going to continue to learn.
And then Tirza, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, so I'm an organic chemist, and of course in chemistry, if any of you took it, you have to take organic chemistry. So that class was definitely really helpful with actually learning the mechanisms and the background of what I do now. And then instrumental analysis. I work on nothing but GCs, GCMSs, HPLCs, and we actually got hands-on experience with that instrumental analysis class that benefits me still today. I also was able to do an internship and research while I was in undergrad at UNC. So in my internship, I also worked on GCMSs doing exactly what I do now, which is, running different analytical methods. So that has helped me. It helped me a lot get into this career field and stay here.
Very nice. Veronica?
Let's see. So I got my bachelor's in physics. And then having that minor in math, I was able to go into engineering with no prerequisites. So that was really nice. So also UNC isn't ABET accredited. However, you can still take the fundamentals of engineering exam. So you can still get that EIT and everything. Let's see. So I guess just being able to combine all of those different courses that I take and use it towards environmental engineering, and being able to get certified with NCEES was really helpful.
Thank you. And then Jeraz?
Yeah, obviously the classes at UNC specifically for the GIS, it was really helpful in terms of getting me the knowledge base that I needed. But I think what I most especially enjoyed about my career at UNC was being able to be in a situation where you're in a close-knit environment, which allows you to, have opportunities for research, internships, and for me specifically, I was able to find an internship while in undergrad and then have that transition into full-time employment. So yeah, use the small connections, use the small class sizes to your benefit, and put yourself out there and try to go for whatever you're hoping to aim for.
Thank you all so much. It's always nice to hear that, right, UNC is prepping you as you go out. We have had a question come into the chat, and it kind of relates to the next two questions coming in. So Amira, I'm going to kind of move your question to end of these next two questions to see how they get answered, and then we can come back to it at the end. So this question is more for Tirza, Veronica, and Jeraz, just because I think it applies a little bit more into your industry. But in your experience, was it possible to secure a position right after? And I know, right, we've talked about kind of that delay in the reply, but in terms of experience, would you suggest ways for a more effective start and that prep, or could you do something during that time as you're going? So I will start with Tirza on this one.
Yeah, so as I previously mentioned, it did take that 6 months to get into a job. For me, however, the first job that actual chemistry job that I did apply to, I took. A lot of times there's a lot of third shift positions and second shift positions, which are like overnight shifts, which a lot of people coming straight out of the field do go into. I just didn't want that. So that might have been why it did take me so long. Just because I was being picky on the type of job that I wanted. So I don't think it was difficult once they saw my resume and everything that I built while I was at UNC with my internship as well as my research. It wasn't too bad to get into the field, but I did start at a very entry level position where I wasn't running instruments at first. I was just getting the basics down in that company. And as they saw, my work progressed, I was able to jump on instruments and get top new things. So it wasn't too hard, but it was just because of my preference of where I wanted to work and what environment I wanted to work in.
Fair. Veronica?
Yeah, so after grad school, I did not have a job lined up. I totally thought I would have, and I had started applying, I want to say 3 months before graduating. And I also had like a generic cover letter, like it wasn't, specific to that job. So I think that, kind of didn't really work out to my advantage. Let's see. And then also I did work other jobs before I landed my first job as an environmental engineer. So I worked in GIS, and then I also taught environmental science. So like still working a job that's in my career field, but not necessarily like my dream job. I think having those skills to list on my resume was really helpful.
And then Jeraz?
Yeah, I think for me, I was one of the lucky ones, and I was able to get a job right after I graduated. But that was definitely in part because of the internship that I had. So, it was a paid internship. Again, I was one of the lucky few who was able to get something like that and then just have it roll over into an opportunity for full-time employment. But yeah, I think internships are very, very important. If you can land one while you're still in school, that would be great. I know it's competitive, and then I know sometimes you might just not have the time or the means to do them. But if you can secure one while in school, it's a really good likelihood that it might roll over into future employment. And then if anything, it just helps bolster your resume for when you do start your actual application processes for jobs after you graduate.
And that leads to a great segue to Amira's question from the chat, which was, and I'm going to keep it in this group because I have another follow-up question for our other group. Would you guys recommend going directly into that internship right after, or even kind of looking for jobs, then internship, and then kind of dream career? Like, what would your recommendation be in that area? We can go back and start the circle with Tirza.
Okay, so I actually did an internship in my undergrad when I think it was my second semester junior year. I did have to get that approved through our department chair because you're supposed to do it in your senior year. But I got a really amazing opportunity to work for the Northern Colorado Regional Forensic Laboratory, which was a new opportunity for UNC, and it was unpaid. However, it did count towards my credits at UNC. And then I was able to do my research my senior year. So I didn't have any internship that was paid after I graduated. It was just that unpaid semester internship that counted towards my credits. If you can do something like that, that will count towards your credits, and you can either do the internship or the research while you're in school, if you're able to do it, I would say do it. A lot of them are unpaid, but if they count towards your credits, it's going to be beneficial for you to do.
Thank you. Veronica, your recommendation?
So mine would be, I guess, if your finances allow for it. So, you know, like if you can afford to take a lower paying internship over, you know, a full-time job, which, you know, for me, I couldn't do that. Like I couldn't pay my bills with an internship. So I had to, you know, like settle for a job that was in my career field. But I mean, I think it's still a great opportunity, you know, to get your foot in the door and to gain, you know, those skills.
No, definitely. Thank you.
And also, like, I mean, a transition to a full-time job isn't always promised from that internship. So
Exactly.
I mean, you could always take it, but then, you know, apply for other things that you're more interested in.
Mute button. Jeraz, you hit on it a little bit when you were talking about your response, but I wanted to see if you had anything else to add to that.
Other than, yeah, just take the opportunities when you can. Like we had previously mentioned, you know, there's some that are paid, some that aren't. But I think Jeraz brought up an awesome example, you know, like with her internship that she got and the opportunity. And I think that's like further bolstered by UNC. Again, I've just heard stories from folks who went to like bigger, larger schools where they have to get on a waiting list just to see their advisor. And that was something I really loved at UNC. Like I could just go up and ask like my advisor directly, like during any time during the school hours, be like, hey, like, what's your thought on this? Or could you help me like write a recommendation letter, stuff like that. And I think that like is a great thing because I mean, for Jeraz's situation, I could imagine that maybe at a larger school, they would have been like, sorry, no, this is strictly for seniors only. And that opportunity might have been, you know, foregone for her. So that's awesome that you got that opportunity. I'm glad that you had that. But yeah, you know, fortune favors the bold. So make sure you go out there and you try your best to get as much experience as you can. And even if they're not directly related to your field, it doesn't matter. I think that work experience and having something that you can relate back and tie back to how that will relate to your field specifically and how that's made you a better person, both on a professional level and a personal level. I think that speaks volumes about you and your character, especially when you're trying to go in for a job.
Thank you all. So I'm going to give the three of you a little break and we're going to switch it back over to Keitra and Anthony. So to start that off did you participate in research opportunities post-graduation, during graduation, and or what would you recommend to kind of prep yourself in that realm? And we can start with Keitra.
Thanks. I did not participate in a research opportunity post-graduation. However, I did get accepted to an undergrad research opportunity where that was, as I said before, where I learned Python, which is the computer program that I use now. I think it was also interesting and eye-opening of, okay, do I want to continue and go to grad school and keep researching? Is that interesting to me or is it not? So I also did not go to a master's program. I worked in some other jobs and then I went to a boot camp for data science. But I will say along kind of back on this internship train, I think another reason for it is to determine, do you want to do like data science in a research lab? Do you want to do data science for a single company, or like me, data scientist for a consulting firm, so you solve a variety of problems. Not everyone likes consulting. Some people don't want to just be with one company. Some people don't want to be in a lab. So I think either exposing yourself to the research opportunities, undergrad or post-undergrad, to see, am I interested in this? The undergrad one was 6 weeks or 8 weeks. So you kind of get the feel of, do I want to do this post-graduation? Is this interesting for me? And then would also lead to, well, what kind of career do I want to have? Do I want my career in a research lab or, you know, at a corporation or other organization?
And Anthony?
I participated in just a little bit of research for undergrad. Even when I went to grad school, though, I didn't perform much research. I think research is great if that's what you want to attain. Personally, for myself, I found myself more on the engineering side of things. So I never pursued the research avenues.
And then I'm going to switch it up on you because we do have a Q&A that directly kind of goes towards both of you. So we have a current software engineer major and having a little trouble balancing the workload and personal interests, and wanted to ask you guys, does it get easier when you are leaving undergrad? And then another kind of follow up to that is, how many hours are you working a week on average? Kind of what's that day-to-day life for you? Just to, right, we want to know that what we're working towards here. So we'll start this one with Anthony this time and then switch back.
Yeah, I've had some jobs where I probably barely work 30 hours, and then other jobs where I'm on call for maybe 80 hours a week. I'd say things do get easier, but that's something you have to kind of set for yourself. I think this is a little more difficult because in undergrad, you try to take the course you can, you try to get through it. I feel like in the professional world, you have to almost be comfortable with prioritizing your work, in my opinion, and saying, yes, I can get to this, but at a later point. If you can manage that, I'd say things definitely get easier if you can prioritize. If you find yourself in a habit of always saying yes, you may end up working longer hours, which I don't think is bad, but I do think it takes a little bit of time to know how to prioritize and how to kind of keep your own spare time precious, because you don't want to burn out in the workplace or even an undergrad. So I'd say it is what you make of it, but you can definitely find lower work hours or higher work hours.
I was a teacher before I went into tech. So yes, tech is way more flexible. But I think it's also depends on the company you have, because one point you mentioned was needing to keep up, and AI and machine learning and all of that is ever changing. And so my company makes it should be our actually own priority of carving out time. So I have time in my day to read articles or within the week, and it's just kind of my choice. So some weeks I'm working under 40 and I can watch more YouTube videos and read more books. And then some weeks I am working over 40 because I have to hit a client deadline. So I think that's a good question as you're interviewing jobs. Just kind of ask them, hey, how do you support your employees as continued education in this field? Are there like embedded hours in the workday or activities that help you support continue learning on that tech? Because you're right, it's evolving a lot and you really have to keep up.
Thank you both. Keitra, you bring up such a great point, right? When we're in that interview, it's both people interviewing, right? You're finding out if this is your company, they're finding out if you're the employee. So don't feel afraid to ask those questions because you want to know what you're getting into. Okay. I'm having so much fun. Okay, so we're going to move into our next question. So as a student majoring in a STEM field, what are interesting positions or employers that you can think of that are potentially hiring recent graduates? And I don't know if that's just kind of a feel that you have from your own field, or even just kind of where you went to find where these jobs were at. And so we will start with Veronica.
Let's see. So I feel like county and state and federal jobs, even like the EPA, there's always, especially those entry level positions available. And I mean, at least for the county job that I'm in, I am working 40 hours a week, and I'm probably like actually productive for maybe 30 of those hours. So like there's definitely a really nice work-life balance. So if you're looking to, get your foot in the door, that's great. Let's see. And then I mean, consulting firms as well. So I know there's a Jacobs that's in Denver. So they might be hiring.
Thank you. Anthony?
As far as software goes, I feel like there are some decent jobs on a website called Stack Overflow. It's usually where people ask questions, but you can find some job positions. What I actually did when I was looking for jobs is I just looked for companies that I knew did engineering related work, and then I saw what open positions they had. So as opposed to looking for the role itself, I looked at companies that I thought might have the role. I don't know if there would be luck in that field, but
Very nice. Tirza?
So currently right now, actually the FBI is hiring big on STEM fields. They're doing a big sweep to get more STEM into the FBI and also more diversity into the FBI. So my emphasis is in forensic science, which is why I know that. So I kind of keep track with that. Another good career site for me, just with chemistry, was governmentjobs.com. They have any government job, county, federal, state. You could look by the state for what job you want, and they have a variety of STEM careers that are on there. My company also hires recent graduates a bunch, so our contact information will be available to you all. Feel free to reach out to my email if you need a recommendation or a referral. My company is continuously hiring recent graduates, and I know a position is going to be available within the next coming weeks for a recent grad. So, you know, you could always reach out to any alum on LinkedIn as well. That's a great opportunity to reach out. We have a whole thing on LinkedIn. So get on LinkedIn after you graduate because it's very beneficial.
Thank you very much. So there was a question that came in off the Q&A, and it was, what was the name of the software employment website? And I think, Anthony, you said it was Stack Overflow?
Yeah, exactly.
Hope that was what the question we're asking.
That site is typically used to ask general questions, but they have additional information about jobs.
All right, so kind of switching in terms of more towards the software engineering, what information can you provide to the spring 2022 graduates studying CIS or software engineering, looking to get into the software network development? And so we will start with Keitra.
So again, data scientist, so in tech, but not a software engineer, but I would say that it's important to speak with someone. And as we've mentioned, get on LinkedIn, reach out to an alum who's in that same field and let them look at your resume and kind of talk to you, because in the field, there's a lot of buzzwords and kind of key phrases that people will say around AI and ML, but they're not really using them in the right way. And so before going into that interview or submitting, just kind of talk with someone through and make sure that like, it's either like, hey, no, actually don't say that, or you're referring to that the wrong way. I had a lot of people do that for me, and someone messaged me one time and I was like, hey, actually you're misunderstanding these concepts. So I think it's just nice to be able to have that kind of more of a friendly conversation, more of a friendly, can you look at my resume? Can you make sure I'm explaining or using the right buzzwords or keywords before putting it in front of an employer? And then I'm also going to plug, as Jeraz did, sorry, I think I'm actually saying your name wrong. My company gives paid internships, and while I'm based out of Austin, they are remote. So if you want to move to Austin, you can. You can also apply and do a remote undergrad paid internship. So if you're looking for data science, let me know.
Very nice. Jeraz.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm not necessarily like very, very heavy in the tech side of things. I think just having the opportunity to look at code and being like understanding it and how to work through that process would be very beneficial. But Keitra's point about the networking, that one's huge. Like when I was in school, they would always have like for the JS community, they had like meetups, pre-COVID. So you would go, if you're of age, you'd have a beer, but you would just like connect with folks and you would tell them like, oh, like I'm a student, this is what I'm learning, and it's just really laid back, very casual. So you get to just kind of talk to people within the field, get a pulse on like what people are looking for, and then just build connections. So for GIS, Esri is like a huge software company that primarily serves a lot of the GIS community with their software. So there were folks from the Denver office who worked for Esri at these meetups, and it's a great way to put your foot in the door, meet people who work in the company that you'd like. So yeah, I think that one's huge. Like just do what you can to network now while you're in school. So then that way you have that connection. And obviously from a couple of the panelists, they're already putting plugs in for their work, for employment opportunities, use that. you look into listservs for jobs. Anthony mentioned Stack Overflow. So there's tons of resources out there. And obviously you have a huge alumni connection through UNC to help you through that process.
Thank you. And Anthony?
Yeah, I think there's been good points made. I would also recommend when looking for jobs, try to focus on companies that you feel like you can grow. In my opinion, tech is kind of constantly evolving. And so if you find yourself in a company that you feel like you are learning, I think that's great. So as Keisha was mentioning, like they have the opportunity to do research and to kind of grow their ML skills. I think especially when you're starting, if you can find a company like that, that would be fantastic.
So before we get into the Q&A, as some more are coming in, I kind of wanted to do one kind of general overall question just to make sure we can hear from you guys first is, could you provide a final word of advice to our UNC Bears who are looking to start their career in your specific industry or to continue to develop while they're in their field as part of their experience? So kind of that end advice piece right now. And we will start with Ross.
Yeah, I think just stay hungry and put yourself out there. Obviously, that's a very cliche, and a lot of people will tell you that. But yeah, I mean, if you're actively searching, you're doing the work, you're putting yourself out there. I know it's scary, but if you take those chances, eventually an opportunity will present itself to you. And if you have the skills and you put yourself in a position to receive that opportunity, wonderful things can happen. So yeah, just be ready. You're going through school, you have that experience, you have your own life experience and what makes you unique. Play on those strengths, and people are looking for unique and assets for their company. And especially now with COVID, there's a shift from the employer having all the power to the employee starting to get some of that power. So yeah, it's been mentioned before, make sure you advocate for yourself, make sure you ask for things that are important to you, whether it's searching through the job or in the job interview itself. But yeah, you all have the tools to be successful. So just play on your strengths and go after it.
Keisha?
My one piece of advice would be to stay open, talk to your advisors, talk to your professors, and talk to others. I was actually studying math education, and I was talking to my advisor and I said, well, what else can I do with the math degree? And she was like, oh, there's so much more. And so I think as you continue to say, yes, this is my major, but keep yourself open of what are the possibilities that I could do, and just try not to kind of pigeonhole yourself or feel that this is the only thing that I'm going to be able to do with this degree. Just keep talking to different people. There's a lot of different titles for similar roles. And also sometimes the role title is very confusing to what actually you're going to do. So just kind of read those boards, talk to people about what they do, to really keep yourself open on what you think you want to do once you graduate.
And Anthony?
This aligns what's already been said, but I would say stay flexible. I never thought I would be a software engineer. My degrees were physics and math, and I kind of slowly found myself getting absorbed more and more into software. In my opinion, a lot of the employment sector, a lot of it's luck and the opportunities you happen to have at that point. A company could be hiring a lot of engineers just because they have a large project going. So I would just say be opportunistic and apply to different things as long as you find yourself in that area. But as was mentioned before, don't feel like you have to pigeonhole yourself, because I feel like if you have a plan, it seems to change every 2 years anyway. So be flexible and find what's good for you in the moment.
Tirza?
Yeah, definitely from what's already been said and what's been said previously, take every opportunity that comes to you, if you see an internship and you're only a junior, go ask if you can do it. Just keep working hard, stay dedicated, and any opportunity that comes to you, just take it if you can, if you're able to.
And Veronica?
So let's see, I guess it would be to stay in touch with your professors and colleagues, so you can expand your future options, and then also have that, nice list of references.
So thank you all so much for your responses. And I know that we had kind of some prepared questions, so now we're getting kind of crazy with when lightning fire round where is this going to come from? So what I'm going to try and do is just kind of move through some of these, and I'll be jumping back and forth throughout the Q&A session, just so that, you know, if it's in there, I'm just trying to get a little bit of flow that I can see. So we have one question with, and this can go to anyone. Did you experience any fear or anxiety leaving the education to join the workplace? And how do you recommend coping with that transition as we move forward?
I had extreme anxiety going into the workforce, and I feel like that's normal and that's healthy. It shows you do have a mindset in which you think you can grow, and you're not going to know everything. And I would say for the vast majority of jobs, people aren't going to expect you to know everything when you first start. You're still learning how to develop new skills. I would say that's completely normal. And even now, like, I'm onboarding new members and I still feel that way. So I don't know if it goes away. I like to think that more folks have that imposter syndrome than we realize. But I would almost say that's completely normal, and other folks have it too.
I think it's also nice to kind of learn the terminology and acknowledge that this is what happens, right? We question if we're here, but then we keep pushing forward. And I think that's where we decide what's right for us. Thank you guys, such great advice. So there was another question in terms of how much do grades versus the experience matter in terms of kind of where you are employment wise, right? What really kind of hit there?
I'll answer this one because while I graduated in 2011 and had all of those grades, I then went to a boot camp for data science, and that's not a master's, it's just a piece of paper saying I finished this. And so what the employer looked at was not what my grades were from 2011. I started in 2019 at my current job. So I didn't look at my grades from 8 years ago, and there was no grades for the certification program, but they were looking at my code and how I, what was on my resume, how I performed in the interview. And so I think if you're in a field like this, it's going to speak more to your actual ability and what technically you can do versus the grades that you got, but also I was at an extended time that it was kind of lapsed for people to care so much about the A or the B or the C.
Seeing a lot of nods, so I'm guessing we're all in agreement. It's so hard when you're in the moment to think past those grades, but in the job, right, it is definitely different. I think we all kind of want to have that idea of, are you financially earning what you expected to before you graduated? And I think in more than anything, it's just kind of, yeah, I'm where I'm at, or, oh man, this is way more than I thought, or they could really help me and kind of bump up these salary aspects. So no numbers, but kind of when you left, did you feel like your field would make you comfortable financially? And kind of, are you there now, or do you see that in your future? And this one I'll kind of ask all of you, since we really kind of get a big gamut from this one. So we will start with Jeraz. I have to take myself off mute.
So when I first graduated, I actually took a little bit low what I thought I should have been earning. But after 2 weeks of being there, they bumped me up by a lot. And I think they were just looking at my work ethic and how hard I was working and coming up into work on time. And then recently, I actually got a promotion and a 30% pay raise. I've been at this company for 6 years. So I think just, seeing that dedication and the work that I do, the company was able to give me a pretty high pay raise. A lot of the times, you get your pay raise at the end of the year and it's like 3%, 5% and stuff like that. But I think as long as you're continuously expanding your knowledge and trying to learn new things, a company will see that. And if not, you can always go and look for another job that will pay with the experience that you do have. But as of right now, I think I'm making pretty good money for what I thought I would be making in my field.
And then we'll go to Anthony.
I'm in a little bit of a similar boat. My first job was basically minimum wage out in Boston. It wasn't horrible by any means. I did learn a lot, but it wasn't what I expected. I would say salary has like gotten better since then. I would say if you try to focus on growth, salary should follow. That's not always the case, but that's what I would recommend. If you're also interested to see what some companies pay, there's a website that I typically use called levels.fyi. It's a little biased towards people in the Bay Area, but it can give you a good range of what some companies are paying for some titles.
Veronica.
So I will say it really depends. So like I'm at a county job now, so I'm not making as much as I used to make in consulting, but I mean, it gives me more of a work-life balance. So am I making as much as I guess I wished? No, but I mean, it's definitely more than livable, and I'm happy with it for the amount of time I have off. And yeah, so it depends. I mean, what you're wanting to go into.
That's actually a great answer. Keitra.
My job immediately upon graduation was actually in financial aid. That was my work study job at UNC. So that's where I worked. I would say that kind of met my expectations. Being a teacher did not meet expectations. We know that's just a hard life for a teacher. And then tech just kind of blew me away. So.
Jeraz.
Yeah, to piggyback off of what Veronica said, there's definitely a range, especially if you're doing, a state job or, government job compared to private sector, like Keitra had just mentioned. So yeah, I think when I graduated, it was like kind of what I expected, but a little bit on the lower side. But I also started a job in state government, so that was as expected. But once I made that transition to private companies, yeah, you'll see that pay jump, and then from there, it's pretty livable. But working through college, working at like a donut shop, it's definitely a huge bump. So I'm feeling pretty good about where I'm at for sure.
Thank you all. I know talking about the money is not always the most exciting one, but I think you all made really good points coming out here, right? It changes with the job, what you're doing, what you want as your priority, and kind of where you're headed towards. So there was a question, and I'm going to read it as written, but I'd also like to make sure that oh no, it disappeared. Where did it? We'll find said question in a moment.
That question directed at me.
Yes.
I just typed the answer.
Okay, so do you mind if I read it out loud?
Yes.
So the question is, so a student is identifying as a Black woman and has been told many times that it's extremely difficult for her to find a job because women, let alone Black women, are not common in the STEM fields. And so this kind of really goes out to everyone because we are all coming from different fields, but would you agree that this is a common observation within your areas? And then have you experienced kind of seeing how this is changing while you have been moving forward? And right, anyone can kind of jump in here.
I typed my response. I'll just add a little more on there. I think one, I love that this panel is diverse. And so that really speaks to employers are hiring people on skill and not just, because of other demographics. I also believe that in my experience getting into tech, I did not feel that I was at a disadvantage or it was extremely harder. I was in a boot camp and I was with four other people. 3 of them were all men and I was the first one to get the job. So maybe I'm special or maybe the field really is changing, and work your network, develop your right skills, have the right, resume conversation, and you can have an equal playing field.
Anyone else want to jump in? Jeraz?
Yeah, I can go ahead and jump in. Kind of similarly, when I was graduating from UNC, I realized there was about 3 women graduating in the thing out of maybe 50 graduates. So, you know, it's actually awesome to see. But going into my job, it was majority men. It was very heavily majority men. And recently, actually, I was going around the lab and I was like, wow, there's a lot of women in here. From when I first started, I was able to count them on my hand. There was only 5 women that actually worked inside the laboratory. And now majority of a lot of the teams are women. So I do see the change going on in the field now. I know it's hard, you know, to be a woman in majoring in STEM, especially when it's so heavily men ran, but it's definitely changing. And I've seen it at my job, at least.
Thank you both for commenting on that. So there was a question that came in terms of startups. So I don't believe that I heard anyone mention that they went through a startup on their way. And so I guess the question is a little bit more of why, unless I missed that one of their jobs was a startup, in which case I apologize.
Yeah, so my consulting firm, Valkyrie Intelligence, we are in our 4th year. So it is a startup, but it was actually not backed by investors. So we have a little less pressure. I have had friends who work for a startup that's backed by investors. And so it's kind of risky because sometimes you're collecting funding and everything's going good, and then all of a sudden things back out. But why did I choose a startup or a small company over a larger organization? And it was really because I just liked working with a small group of people. I liked a more intimate setting. I liked that I can sometimes control what I do. So if I'm saying, hey, I want to start doing this, I can go and start doing that instead of it's like, oh, well, no, actually this department only does this. You must stick with this. You can't branch out. I just liked the opportunities. I thought I would have more to gain at a smaller company / startup. But also, yes, there can be stress from a startup if they are like in the funding.
It's a fair point. What stage of the startup are we really at? So quite a few of you have mentioned, right, transitioning into jobs. And Veronica, you really kind of hit that part of your decision was that work-life balance and putting that as your priority. But I'm curious if you could also speak to kind of how you dealt with that, oh my goodness, am I really going to do this? Because I think some of the times when we're leaving college, we're like, this is my career, this is where I'm going, this is how it's happening. And then we change. And so I think one of the things is kind of how did you guys get support for that change in being able to know that I'm going to take this risk and where I'm going?
Yeah, I think, it's just being grounded in yourself and who you are and the skills that you can bring to the table. Like I said, I think there's like this shift now where, that power is shifting back to the employees. So, really these companies, especially with the renewed focus now with like diversity, inclusion, and just work-life balance and everything that the pandemic has brought upon us, folks are needing to change a lot and then be comfortable with that change. So, being okay with who you are and what you can bring to the table, I think that really helps with like that transitioning and making you feel like you're okay and ready. Some folks, maybe they've always been in transition, whether because of like having to work and support themselves financially from a younger age. So there's not like as adherent of a parent of a fear of that, and there's some other folks who really are worried about the future and all that kind of stuff. But whatever you're feeling, regardless, at the end of the day, it's very valid. You can have those feelings for sure. But I think with how you respond based off of those feelings and how you move forward and act on that, I think that really sets the tone for your career and how you kind of set that up. But yeah, just it's scary. I think all of us can attest to feeling afraid at some point throughout our careers or at the start of the careers. But look at us now. We're all here and we're making it, we're killing it. So it doesn't mean that it can't happen to you as well.
Anyone else want to jump on that before I get us to our summary question?
I make it simple. I feel like work-life balance is like one thing it's probably one of the more important things that most folks don't think about. Right now, my work-life balance isn't great, but I've noticed that like the most successful people I've known have had a good work-life balance. I've known some people that have worked really long hours, And that's okay for a bit, but I feel like you usually burn out after 2 or 3 years. And if you set a balance for yourself and you set some boundaries, I think that comes across as a good thing. People realize that your time is valuable. I would almost think about setting a work-life balance as good for your career personally. It's easy to give more of your time to work, but I would say prioritize work-life balance.
Such a great point, right? Avoiding that burnout before you could ever get there. So as we're kind of ending, one of the questions was, is there one experience that stands out from UNC where you're like, that was the moment I realized? And I think it's always, we think it's a compilation, and sometimes it's just that weird moment. So I watched a frog cell divide from 1 cell to 2, and I was like, that's it. That's what I'm doing, right? No classes, nothing. So I'm wondering if you guys had one of those experiences.
Totally, yeah. For me, I actually started school with the intention of like becoming a doctor, and so like was a bio major and all that kind of stuff. Took organic chem, just got railed. It was tough. And it was actually UNC's like general elective class that they required in the humanities, where I found GIS, and I was like, whoa, this speaks to me. Like I'm nailing all these quizzes and grades. Like it just makes sense to me as compared to what I was experiencing in like OChem or even in some of the bio classes. And so I was like, wait, this is something I should look into. And so I think that specifically was like the major moment, like the aha moment for me, for when I was like, okay, maybe I'm not in the field that I thought I should have been in or should have gone into. And I just made the switch. And so, yeah, I have no regrets. Obviously, it took a little bit longer to get through school. And some folks might not have that luxury, but don't be afraid to branch out. And then even if you do realize after the fact that maybe this is not like for you, be brave and take that chance to jump ship. And I think a few folks have mentioned that already, you know, like it takes time to develop as a person. You don't really know yourself completely until a little bit later on anyway. So there's no shame in changing your mind, changing what your, like values are as you grow and you learn about yourself more. So yeah, that was like my aha moment. So like, thank goodness that UNC required general elective classes, because yeah, without that, I don't know if I would have really found GIS.
My moment was when I was able to get that internship my junior year. How awesome the department chair was. Sit me down, he talked to me about it. You know, we had a great conversation. He's like, yeah, if you want to do this, I want you to do this. And how easy it was for me to just be able to, as Jeraz said before, you know, in a bigger environment, I might have not been able to do that. But because our department chair was actually my OChem teacher, you know, he did see that I would be able to get that done. And then from there, I was able to use my experience at my internship and go into senior year doing a research of what I was doing at my internship and formulate it into a research opportunity my senior year. So just being able to tell somebody this is what I'm interested in and them fully support you is a great feeling. And I'm glad I experienced that at UNC.
And Norma has come back on, who's been in the background providing all kinds of information for you guys. So I don't know if you saw it, but I saw the chat kind of going crazy. So you do have contact information for all of the panelists. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Norma so that she can conclude us. But thank you all so much, panelists. This was such a fun hour. I really appreciate it.
Thank you to all of our panelists and our moderator for joining us today, as well as our attendees. It's always an honor and a pleasure for me to host fellow Bears and hear about their experience, their career paths, and industry insights. I know that there were some questions in the Q&A section that we did not get a chance to get to, but I did post the contact information in the chat. Please make sure to copy that and save that and reach out to individual panelists so that your answers can be answered. Your questions can be answered. Throughout the semester, we will be hosting additional alumni career panels. They are all virtual, and you can find those at www.unco.edu/alumni/careers. And the recorded version of this event will also be on that website. Again, thank you to all of you for being here, and have a great evening, and go Bears.